How did Colombia make this kind of a comeback in such a short time, just a decade, which in the history of the nation is not very long? How and why was Colombia able to rise from its troubles as impressively as you have?
Well, we have been for many years, many decades, been signaled as a non-viable state, as the champions of kidnappings, drug traffic, murders, violation of human rights. And for many years, people didn't even want to even come to Colombia because they were afraid. We have been changing this reality for some years now. Perceptions usually follow realities. And I think today the world is understanding that Colombia is one of the most dynamic democracies with a very dynamic economy. Who would imagine just a few years ago that the spreads on our sovereign bonds would be lower than Japan, Italy, France, and competing with the US? This is something completely out of anybody's imagination. But we were able to do this through perseverance and good policies.
There's some in the media and the international and the US diplomatic community who see some signs that Colombia, and yourself included, are in fact distancing themselves from the United States. Do you see that as any way valid?
I'm not interested in distancing myself from the US. I owe, and Colombia owes, a tremendous gratitude for all the help that the US has given us. My neighbors and the whole of the region knows my close relation with the US. They accept this, and not only do they accept it, they value it. We see ourselves, and we have played that role in being a sort of a bridge between the US and many of the countries with which the US has now not a particularly good relationship.
Is there anything that you think the United States should be doing differently with Latin American states? You know, Americans and American media and American government have noted with some alarm that the United States sphere of influence in South America seems to be shrinking. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? What should America be doing differently?
When you compare the strategic interest of the US in Afghanistan with what the strategic interest of the US here in Latin America, I mean, there's no relation. I think the US should value more and appreciate more and get more interested for the US own good about the importance of Latin America and a long-term strategic interest of the US. The more they look south, the more we will look north. It's a two-way street. And I think it's a matter also of understanding that we need each other and that we can, if we work together, we can all benefit.
Do you worry about this risk that Latin America is relying too much on commodities and high commodity prices to fuel its economic boom and not enough on manufactured and value-added goods? And is Colombia part of that problem too?
We are struggling to not have this high dependence on the exports of commodities. We're promoting investment in manufactured goods because, among other things, this is what creates more employment. And I think this is one of the big challenges that we have, to maintain an equilibrium between, we are very rich in commodities and energy, but we cannot only depend on that.
The Uribistas, the so-called Uribistas, though, in the country, they criticize you for having been sort of opportunistic, that when you were President Uribe's defense minister, you were much more conservative, that you seemed to show a different philosophy then than you do now, that you turned more moderate. How do you respond to their accusation that you were an opportunist?
First of all, this is a small minority that is saying that. Second, about being conservative in the Ministry of Defense, I was simply doing my job. I was not the social minister, I was not the Minister of the Interior, I was the defense minister. And modesty apart, and I'm sorry to say this, the most successful defense minister this country has had in the whole 50 years of conflict. No member of the Secretariat was neutralized before. If you see what has happened to the FARC and the ELN in the last 6 years, you will very easily come to a very different conclusion from this small minority of Uribistas.
Now that Colombia is emerging from its troubles, what sort of model do you see Colombia being for Latin America and the Western Hemisphere now?
What I hope is a country that is seen as a country that respects the basic principles of any democracy, and at the same time is a promoter of the issues that in today's world are becoming more and more important, like the environmental issue, like sustainable development, like growth with equity, but within this framework, a country where people are happy. And fortunately, we are a country where people are again becoming happy. I consider that extremely important for any society to have faith in the future. Here you must feed, and I try to do this every day, feed the optimism, feed the happiness of the people.